Hello and welcome back to the Checkpoint Reach podcast. This is a gaming and occasional movie news podcast. I'm your host Luke Eldon, and as ever I'm joined by my fellow gamers and friends Sud, Perks and Matty. How you doing, guys?
Hola.
Hello.
Hola.
Hello. Good to have you on board as ever for the podcast. Looking forward to getting stuck into the topics this week.
Yeah,
As always.
should be good.
Yeah, it should be. Before we do get started though, remember to subscribe to our channel for more gaming content each week if you're listening on YouTube. Give the video a like and also comment on the videos that help the channel to grow. Anyway, let's get started with the first topic this week, which is Xbox shows Project xCloud in action playing Forza Horizon 4 on a phone. During the latest Inside Xbox livestream, Microsoft's Project xCloud tech was shown off in action. Project xCloud allows games to be streamed directly to devices via hardware in remote data centers, letting you play games through a sufficient highly sped internet connection. Specifically, Forza Horizon 4 was shown running on an Android-based phone connected wirelessly to an Xbox One controller. Now, we should really start with that, because if you've seen the video, I will put it in the YouTube video, but if you've seen the video, yeah, that looked pre-recorded.
Yeah, it's atrocious. I think how they can even pretend that that was playing the game is pretty, it's downright fraud, to be honest with you. It's complete and utter rubbish, as usual. I don't think this tech is anywhere near being ready. And the fact that they couldn't even show it working properly in a controlled studio environment where they obviously had a ridiculously fast internet connection and they had all the stuff that they needed sort of ready to go, and it still didn't look as if she was even playing the game. It was just shocking.
Yeah, she was like turning left at some points with the controller, and the car's going right. It just looks so obvious.
Apparently, what you do on a driving game is you click the bumpers, don't you, when you to drive?
Yeah, that's how you get the speed, isn't it?
That was the worst giveaway for me. Absolutely ridiculous. No one clicks bumpers when you're in a racing game. But anyway, yeah.
Well, you could be shifting up and down, but regardless, I think the biggest giveaway was the fact that she was turning in a completely wrong direction. You can't fake that. You know what I mean? It's one of them things that is just so obvious, and I don't know how they thought people wouldn't notice. Like, this is the gaming space. People overanalyze and pick apart everything. And it literally looked like she was playing an entirely different game. So I don't know what Microsoft were thinking showing xCloud so early. It was just seemed like a complete waste of an announcement.
Well, you say so early. I mean, according to them, they're saying the public trials are starting this year. I mean, they seem to think it's ready, apparently.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That was Xbox head of gaming,
very...
Kareem Chowdhury. He said that public trials for the project xCloud will begin this year. Yeah.
So they clearly think it's nearly ready. I mean, I don't know. It seems to me that
maybe they're banking on 5G.
We need to wait. Well, I was about to say 5G is the thing you have to wait for first, because I can't see this working at all on 4G. It's just not going to work. There's no one's got a connection, or it's just not possible. That cannot be possible on a 4G. It just isn't possible.
So, I think that the term public trials is broad, though, isn't it? I mean, public trials could be a very select handful of people in select environments and locations. So I wouldn't start chomping at the bit too soon, thinking we're all going to get access to this to see how it rolls out in our locations. This could be a handful at best of different places to begin with. Mm. I'm honestly with you guys. I was in shock when I saw it, how badly it was put together as a demonstration. If they were trying to fool someone who's never seen a video game before, then 10 out of 10. It was a great 2 minutes, but my God. And we're not the only ones that think this, by the way. As a collective, you look at all of the responses that they got on their Twitter platforms, basically saying, like, who are you trying to kid? Like, this is so pre-recorded, it's unbelievable.
Hey, even my girlfriend knew, and she's not a gamer at all, and I showed her, and she was like, she's not playing that game. I was like, well,
Well, it's prime example of the point. It's crazy how badly it was put together, and that's not even a difficult thing to do. I mean, if you're going to pre-record something and just have hands on a controller like that, then hell, just pre-record it properly and pretend that it's someone else's hands at the time. I don't know. It was a bad demonstration as far as I'm concerned, and I think a lot of people online feel the same way.
I think the most comical thing, sorry to interrupt, but I think the most comical thing is, as well as how she was saying, "Oh, I can't wait to play this on the tube." Yeah, like you're going to get a good enough internet connection underground to be playing Forza.
Maybe in their own little bubble, possibly, but yeah, the point I was going to make is it's a shame because the actual technology behind it and the idea behind it is a great idea. Like, if they can manage to get this working at some point, and with the introduction of 5G, you would hope that would ease the transition towards this type of game. And I do think it's a great idea, especially for the more casual type gamer that maybe doesn't want to spend, £300-400 pounds or dollars buying the next console or buying tons of games. If you've got this combined with Game Pass, this sort of idea, and you'd imagine it'd be on. You'd access Xbox Live through your phone on some sort of app or something. Maybe Game Pass would be part of it. Some sort of deal or something. It'd be a really good idea. I think this is definitely something. Even though they say public trials this year, I think this is a next gen thing, isn't it? I don't think we're going to see anything too much more on this until next gen, probably.
Well, it's no gen. You don't need a console to play it, so it can come out whenever. Doesn't matter. I'm surprised. The one sort of gripe I have with people being amazed by it and being like, "Oh, this is the future," is so many companies have already been trying this for a long time. On Live tried it when me and Perks were in college, and it obviously wasn't a success then. It failed because of the latency issues. PlayStation Now's tried it, wasn't a success. It failed because of the latency issues again. And now Microsoft are coming up showing exactly the same thing, and it looks like it's going to fail because of the latency issues again, judging by the fact that she wasn't even playing the game. So I reserve judgments until I actually see this working properly in my own hands. It's one of them things. The latency completely destroys this type of service, and I haven't, regardless of whether you've got a ridiculously fast 5G connection or not, it's up to Microsoft to find a way to reduce those latency issues to within acceptable levels.
Yeah, and I think, to be fair, they're saying it's coming this year and things like that, but I think we all know realistically it's going to take, you'd think, at least 2, 3, maybe even more than that years to fully comprehend this and be able to actually get it in a state where, it's playable. Because I think, well, I know we haven't all used it, but I think you maybe tried, I don't know if you tried PS Now, Mike, but yeah, there was a lot of issues with that. I mean, you try and play like a game on that, and you're looking at even it's even a delay of up to a second on some button inputs and things, and it's just like, this is not acceptable. You can't even, you think maybe multiplayer games would be literally impossible, I think, with that, but a single player game, even single player games, it's just too much. You can't enjoy the game properly with that sort of lag.
Well, we're talking about the standard of game here as well. I mean, they were showing off, or allegedly showing off, Forza, and that's a AAA game for them. We're not talking about some small arcade/indie game that could quite easily be put together and latency issues could be ironed out quite simply. We're talking about the biggest of the biggest games being available in this manner. You've said it before. This is a long time coming. This is not going to launch in all its glory at some point in 2019. It is right now impossible. Even with certain locations having 5G, it doesn't matter. The input lag is not going to be perfect from the off. I feel the same way about this kind of thing that I felt about VR when that first came about. The first iterations of it are typically not very good. They don't work as everybody expects them to, and they don't give you that sense of fulfillment like they advertise and like you feel like they're going to.
They have to test the waters, don't they?
Yeah, and I'm expecting that when this kind of thing, because the guys have already referenced what we've seen in the past, when Microsoft bring their thing to the table in Project xCloud, it's not going to be perfect when it first hits. It might be 3 or 4 iterations down the line, if they even support it that long. So yeah, I'm reserving judgment big time for now, and until I feel the same way as Matty, and I think that kind of sums it up how we feel about games in general, really. Until it's in my hands and working at maximum capacity, I don't want some 10-15% crap that cuts out on me all the time or doesn't respond properly. I'm not happy with this.
The other thing about this as well is, the other angle to look at this is from is, they're obviously going after the more casual market with this sort of push to xCloud and things like that. But does it actually interest any of us four? Because, yeah, don't get me wrong, I think it'd be something I'd definitely try out to give it a go, but I can't imagine it ever replacing the console experience for me. I just won't.
We'll try it. We'll definitely try it. I probably be traveling somewhere and I'll be like, go on, I'll give it a go. But I can't see it replacing a console experience for me.
No.
I can't see me making the switch to it like full time or anything like that.
I think some people would, don't get me wrong. I think there'd be people out there that'd be happy to do that. But I think the vast majority of Xbox gamers, I think they'd rather just stick to the console, to be honest. Like, yeah, it feels almost like a novelty project at the moment. Like, don't get me wrong, in 10, 20 years' time, it's going to be a completely different landscape, and I'm sure things are going to look very different. But at the minute, it does feel a bit like a novelty project.
I feel like they're just trying to get ahead of the curve, to be honest.
Yeah,
trying to innovate. They've seen people fail or experience struggles with this, so they're probably trying to build on them and improve and create their own space in the market.
Even though Kareem actually made a point of saying, we're not trying to get out of the console market, I feel like this is the start of them trying to get out of the console market. It was just another Inside Xbox or E3 done by Microsoft that made me feel like, so what's the point in owning an Xbox One? And it just happens every time. E3, they're always talking about, we're bringing Halo to PC. We're doing this, we're bringing this, that, and the other to PC. We're making Project xCloud. You don't need an Xbox One anymore. Okay, well, I'll get rid of it then and throw it in the bin. It's just ridiculous. And I understand that giving consumers as much choice as possible and making their games available on as many platforms as possible, I completely understand that. But I do feel, and I have felt for a long time, that if there was a scenario tomorrow where they could say consoles don't exist and it's just all on Project xCloud, then they'd grasp that opportunity with both hands.
I agree, and I also think it would be a huge mistake just a few months out if they focused a large proportion of their E3 conference on Project xCloud.
I don't think they will. I
really hope
just because it was Inside Xbox. Yeah. I feel like that was them getting an announcement in, so it doesn't have to be at E3, because it had been rumored and basically leaked for a long time, so they were just sort of getting ahead of the game and confirming that before E3, just so as not to waste everyone's time with an announcement that people already knew was going to exist.
I mean, we've seen Microsoft waste our time before, so don't count your chickens just yet.
I wouldn't completely rule it out.
I'm sure Project xCloud will be at E3 in some capacity. They're not just going to not reference it at all, but I just really hope it's a side note rather than a major attraction of their conference or their show.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Piers. I think it will definitely be there in some guise or another, but I think it may be something they talk about maybe for a couple of minutes rather than 20 minutes. I think they might just pass over it. And I think they're going to probably talk at their E3 conference more about maybe Game Pass, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And
maybe something to do with... I think I can see them doing some sort of subscription thing where you pay for Gold and Game Pass, and maybe this xCloud has got something to do with that as well, but I think that's going to be their focus for services at E3.
Maybe they'll finally announce games.
That's the hope.
Oh, I'd like
That'd
to hope
be nice.
So.
Well, I just want to touch on something Perks spoke about before, and how that these aren't just any old games. They're actually trying to focus on console quality gaming, is what Phil Spencer also mentioned at E3 2018. Do we think that can be achieved, or do we think they should start off with more indie game projects to get their feet on the ground and then build up to more console quality gaming on every device?
I think
console quality gaming can be achieved because that's all on the server side. It's the Azure servers, which are fantastic, and Microsoft has got so many of these data centers around the world, and they've been continuing to build them for a long time. That's doing all the heavy lifting, as to speak. So I don't think the actual quality of the game affects the performance of the service that much. It's the actual latency issues, like my input on my controller, how that affects the game. it's very hard to get low latency when you're, say you press the A button to jump, you're telling a server, that might be like 50,000 miles away via the internet to jump. It's very hard to create a situation where that's low latency. And I think that's always going to be the issue that they run into. The actual quality of the games themselves, that won't be the problem. It's the actual latency that you get with the controller input.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have probably heard of it anyway. There's a cloud-based streaming service already doing quite well at the moment, which is called Shadow. And that's basically giving you access to a sort of powerful gaming PC that's streaming the feed through to sort of any PC or device that can actually run the application well. And it works, apparently, I haven't tried it myself, but based on reviews, it works particularly well for non-competitive games and games that can get away with a little bit of latency here or there, but not so much for oppositely. So
yeah,
it could work, but again, for me, long time coming.
It's the multiplayer games that are the problem, I think, mainly. Like, you can get away with a very, very slight bit of latency in a single-player game, but multiplayer, you try to play something like PUBG or Apex Legends, you're not going to win. It's just as simple as that, because there's going to be other people playing on console that are just going to have a massive advantage over you. And that is going to be a big problem, because, these are the type of games now that, well, Microsoft are definitely trying to push, and, all of them really are trying to push these multiplayer-centric games. And, with these latency issues, it's going to be a problem down the line. But, I think you can get away with it slightly with single-player games. But even for them, it is, like Mike said, this is the biggest problem they face with this whole xCloud thing. And it'll be interesting to see if they can solve it. I think there's going to be a lot of teething problems early on. And that's why I think, for me, I won't be touching it for quite a while.
Yeah, which is understandable, to be fair. Do you think, as Matty also touched on before, do you think, say if they nail this, xCloud is a massive success and they've got it working perfectly and it's on every device, would you guys own an Xbox One or whatever the next gen version of the console is? Or would you just own a different console that's out at the time and get the Xbox services on that?
Well, I think, like I said, I suppose it's a hard one to answer right now, because we don't know 100% exactly what the roadmap is for Xbox or for PlayStation or whoever it may be, but it would definitely make me think about where I want to put my future if Microsoft are going away from consoles, that's for sure. Because as much as, I would like to try out this xCloud and see what it's like and things like that, I can't imagine myself seriously if you're thinking about, say, an Epic single player, mate, are you really going to want to play an Epic single player game on your phone for like 7 hours? Because I definitely wouldn't.
Yeah, I personally wouldn't either.
Well, you could stream it to your TV. It's not necessarily, you don't have to stream it to your phone. Most TVs now have got smart services built in. I don't see why you couldn't just update it with the Project xCloud app and just play the game straight to your TV.
Yeah, I'm sure you could, but they seem to be pushing this mobile aspect a lot more. They clearly want people. It's clearly their solution to a handheld console, it seems to me. Like, in a way, it's like, well, yeah, we've got the traditional console, and look at this, we've kind of got our own handheld console that basically, like they say, 2 billion people own.
Yeah, it's a pretty big market, to be fair.
Yeah, it's massive. Their terminology is all devices, isn't it? That's what they're going for. It's not just phones or tablets. It's everything. So they're trying to encapsulate everybody and everything. Like I said,
if you're trying to get phones, sorry, man, if you're trying to get phones on the go, like Wi-Fi, maybe that's doable, but like on the go, oh, this is a handheld device, you can play your games on the go. I think that's complete and utter, garbage, to be honest. That's years and years and years away. You talk about 5G, like you can probably count 100 times a month easily when, we live in like North Wales. It's not exactly a built up industrial sort of like residential area with, high speed internet. The amount of times I look at my phone and I don't even have a phone signal, let alone 4G or 5G. It's like, how am I supposed to be going around playing Forza Horizon on the go? It'd literally cut out every 5 seconds. And again, it's like, I understand that this is early in the life sort of cycle of Project xCloud. It's, in its infancy, but I think it's years and years and years into the future before you're going to be able to talk about using this on the go, like sitting in your car and playing it or something like that. I can't see a situation where that's ever going to be possible, because your signal always cuts out, even if it's for a second, when you go through a tunnel or whatever. It's complete and utter madness, to be honest, to think that this would work on the go.
Just to note that Checkpoint Reach does not endorse playing video games whilst driving.
No, we definitely. But there might be driverless cars.
Yeah.
I think the other angle to look at this from as well is, we talk about the latest and things like that, but they have, if we're talking from Microsoft's point of view here, they have to have the content as well, because if they don't have the content or the exclusive games that people want to play, it doesn't matter how good the xCloud service works. People aren't going to be bothered, because people are just going to be like, well, look at PlayStation, they've got the better games again, and they're just going to stick with PlayStation. So, yeah, this xCloud is important from things like that, but they need to make sure that their focus is on producing the best games possible for the platform. Because, they want to reach 2 billion games and things like that. Yeah, but 2 billion people aren't going to be bothered if your games are crap. So, you still have to have a good
it's naive as well to think that this is going to be just Xbox's project. Like, Xbox are the only ones that are going to do streaming. Sony have been heavily invested in this business for years. Like, when the PlayStation 4 first came out, they bought Gaikai, which was like a streaming service at the time, with the intention of setting up PlayStation Now. And obviously they haven't sold Gaikai off or anything like that. They're still there. They're still working on this stuff. So I think behind the scenes, Sony have been working on a lot of streaming for the next generation PlayStation Now as well. So that's going to be the next sort of service rivalry, I think, between the two companies.
Yeah, and it's not even just that, is it? You're looking at Google now, Amazon, all rumoured to be working on, well, if not gaming consoles, some sort of gaming
You mentioned
streaming.
Google. How bad was that controller? How bad did that look?
Well, it actually ended up being a fake, so...
Oh, it was a fake in the end?
Yeah, it was a fake in the end, so not real, but...
Thank God.
Good job, because that would have been the end of them if that had been real straight away. So it's a good job it was a fake. But yeah, you've got Google now, you've got Amazon, you've got Apple. They're all going to be getting involved now in this game streaming. So we're looking at it from a Sony and Microsoft point of view when there's even bigger players here that could be Microsoft's right. We're looking at Microsoft saying Sony are going to be the biggest rival next gen. Well, yeah, they will be, but the gen after that, it might not be Sony. So if Sony don't get their act together with this streaming stuff, because at the minute, like you said, Matt, yeah, okay, fair enough. They have invested a lot of money in it, but they seem behind Microsoft in this streaming race. And if they don't get their act together, Google, bottomless pit of money, Amazon, bottomless pit of money, they're going to come and take Sony's place in this streaming market. So I think there's a lot of interesting times ahead for Sony going forward in the next 10, 20 years.
Everyone wants a slice of the pie.
Yeah, everyone will as well, because the gaming industry is just growing, isn't it? So big companies are not going to just sit on the sidelines when they think they can get some of that pie. Anyway, we'll move on to topic number 2. And that is good news for you guys, because apparently it's the potential Borderlands 3 announcement is coming. PAX East 2019. Gearbox have teased its upcoming PAX East 2019 main theatre show with a new image that undoubtedly points to something Borderlands related. Appearing at the show would line up with heavy speculation of a proper Borderlands 3 announcement. The teaser image that they used is it's like did you guys see it? It's as if
it's a
you're
billboard,
driving on
the
on a freeway or something. It's got March 28th show in Boston, Massachusetts. Exit 3 is on the sign as well. So, what do you guys think of this? Because I know you guys are big Borderlands fans.
Well, it's about time, isn't it? I mean, it's been too long. Borderlands 2 came out in 2012. It's been 7 years. We've not had a Borderlands this generation, which has been a bit of a surprise, but I think we're going to get one this generation, because I can see this being a sort of Fallout 4 situation where they sort of go, oh, it's out this year, because I do get the sense that it could be coming out at the end of this year, possibly. I hope so anyway. Maybe early next year, but I don't think this is going to be a situation where it's like, oh, we're announcing it and it's coming out in 5 years or something. I think it will be for this generation, a late game for this generation. Be interesting to see what they do with it. I think we did touch on it on another podcast. Like, are they going to slightly change the game in terms of they've seen the success of, the Destinies and, the Battle Royale type games and things like that. So are they going to try and change it into more of that type of game? I'd hope not, personally. I'd hope it remains a a co-op shooter rather than. I don't want it to become more like a Destiny game, really. But it'll be interesting to see. I mean, Gearbox as well. They need this game to do well, don't they? Because they've not been doing great as of recent with the most recent games. So it'll be interesting to see how it does.
Yeah, they could do with a success. How about the other two? What are your thoughts on it?
I'll start the same as Sid. It's about damn time, Gearbox. We've been waiting. This was almost a bloody Half-Life 3 situation where everyone's wanted it for the longest time, and it's like, come on, come on, come on, and never actually comes on. So, yeah, great stuff. We know we're going to see more in a couple of weeks' time, March the 28th. The Exit 3 sign is Borderlands 3. There's no way it's going to be anything else, and if it is, then they can just go to hell. So, keep it the
Strong
same.
words.
Absolutely keep it the same. It had all the charm it needed. The design of the game, the graphical presentation was fantastic. The humor from multiple characters, the way the bosses were designed, the loot was great. Everything about Borderlands 1 and 2 was so satisfying as a complete gaming experience. It doesn't need to be a shared world shooter. It doesn't need to compete in that market. I want Borderlands 3 to just be a true follow-up to Borderlands 2, and it will succeed if it doesn't try any of the nonsense that goes with it. Just stay true to your roots and the game will succeed.
What do you think it actually is going to be, though? What are your thoughts? Do you think...
If it's a shared world shooter, I'm not buying it.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you have that horrible feeling it could be?
I'm just boycotting live service games from now on, because every single one is just a dreadful pile of poo. For all the kids out there,
PG.
they didn't want to hear me swear. It's the PG era, yeah. PG-13.
Like, honestly, though, back to the question. I think I'm going to say 90% is going to stay true to its roots, like I just mentioned. I do think there's going to be a 10%.
You've got too much faith in Borderlands. I think Randy Pitchford is a complete and utter dickhead. And I think that he's going to see the money signs in his eyes. He's going to see how much, all these live service games make on the microtransactions and all that. And he's going to be like, oh, we need a piece of that pie. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. But I thought from day one that Borderlands 3 was going to be an MMO. It does seem like the next... we don't want it to be, but if you're a bean counter or whatever, it does seem like a logical move to make with the game because it suits that style of shooter perfectly. But
yeah, I actually disagree with that. I'd just like to say I disagree. I think it's becoming oversaturated now, and I think this is the point where it's going to become more diminishing returns the more of these games exist in this shared world shooter. I actually think they're better served making a traditional Borderlands game, 4-player co-op or 2-player co-op, whatever they want. A good single player campaign.
But this wasn't in development now. This was probably in development like 3 years ago when they had the money signs in their eyes. Yeah, it could have been in development all generation. But it's one of them things. The market is saturated. You're absolutely right. We've seen with Anthem the sales diminishing and just people not wanting to play the game. The area of that market is saturated, but I think this game's been in development for a long time, and it's one of them things you can't sort of change your mind halfway through. If they've decided from day one it's going to be an MMO, then it's going to be an MMO, regardless of the performance of Anthem and the market being saturated.
Yeah, and I agree with that point. And I wasn't, I do agree with it. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's too late and it is going to be a shared world MMO type shooter, but I don't think that's the best thing. I think that's a mistake if that's the direction they've gone in. Because as we've seen recently with Destiny and Anthem and Division 2 now and other games in this space, it's so oversaturated. And, these games the more of these games come out, the more people are going to be bored with them. And the more people are going to just want to go back to normal single-player games.
If it did go down that route, Sud, would you buy it?
That's a really hard question to answer because I do really like the Borderlands universe, and even though, shared world shooters are a bit hit and miss with me, I don't know. It's a tough one to answer. I don't know. I don't know whether I'd buy it. I probably would because I buy most games anyway at some point. So, I mean, most games I end up buying or playing at some point. So I probably would, but it would definitely put me off if it was a shared world shooter. I'm not going to lie. My excitement would go down for the game a lot, and I think we'd all excitement all of us really would go down if it was a shared world shooter. But yeah,
like I'll follow up and sort of continue where I left off. I said 90% that it's going to stay how it used to be. That 10% margin is where all of the shared world stuff comes in. The stuff that doesn't particularly affect the game but has to be included because, current climate and all that. So that 10% of the game I'm talking about will be the microtransactions. I'm sure there's going to be numerous skins, more than you can count, combinations of outfits and weapon designs and blah, 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 so on and so forth. And yeah, I do think there's going to be a portion of the game that's attributed to that category. I'm just confident that it's not going to be completely sort of head over heels the new Destiny or something like that. Whilst you both made really valid points, I think there's sort of truth and non-truths to what you've both said. What Matty was talking about really was kind of the natural progression of the evolution, if you like, of a game like this. You could imagine sort of Borderlands 1 and 2, if Destiny was set in that universe and called Borderlands 3, that's kind of what you'd expect to see from it. But it has been that many years now that you might think that they've seen that and thought, hey, if it was to be an MMO to begin with, they've had enough years to see what's happened since then. And that, in my opinion, there is still time to pull the plug on stuff like that. We don't know the release date for this game, so hey, if it's coming out in August or September 2019 or something like that, then yeah, too late. They'll get the closers in and everything's going to be done. But hey, if it's a 2020 or 2021 release, like we have no idea. This game could still change. I mean, literally all we have is an image. So we literally have to watch that space.
Yeah, I don't think so, though. I just don't think... The game's been rumoured for so long now that it's been in development, and it's been 7 years already. I just can't see them suddenly going, oh, actually, this is a 2021 game. I can't see it. I think for me, early 2020, maybe like this time next year, at absolute maximum for me. Like, I think the game will come out between now and then. It's been so long already, and I think it's a current gen game.
It's been too long. Like, it needs to come out in that period you've just mentioned, but hey, we don't know. So
let's hope it's not the Crackdown.
They're going to get a lot of bad will.
Yeah, we don't need another Crackdown 3.
They'll get so much bad will.
It's a Borderlands 3 mobile game.
Oh,
yeah, that would be. I mean, that'd be. The thing is that'd just be idiotic because they'd be just killing themselves, wouldn't they? Because Gearbox. Yeah, but Gearbox, as we know, don't have the greatest reputation recently.
Yeah.
So I think it has to be Borderlands 3, and it has to come out fairly soon. Or else
my take on the announcement is if they're announcing this in March before the next gen consoles are obviously going to be revealed this year at some point, then it's got to be this generation that it's coming out.
Just has to
they wouldn't reveal it, and then say, oh, it's a next gen game when next gen consoles don't exist. So it'd have to be in the next sort of year and a half.
Yeah, I think to give it the most sales potential as well, you'd kind of want it to release fairly late in the generation, but not too late because as we know now, there's so many PS4 and Xbox Ones in the wild that this is one of the best times to have a game like this because it maximizes your sales potential because there's so many consoles out there.
It'll definitely be out before the next gen if it's coming out, just because they'll have learned from their mistakes with Borderlands, the pre-sequel, which wasn't even a bad game, but absolutely tanked because for some reason they decided to release it on PS3 and 360 when the Xbox One and PS4 were already out, which was just ludicrous.
Bad marketing play.
Awful.
Are you guys worried about this title, or are you more optimistic than worried? Because obviously with Gearbox's recent failings. So worried.
I'd say I'm cautiously optimistic.
Sitting on the fence.
No, I just think I'm optimistic the game could be good, but at the same time, there's part of me that's like, I don't know. It's hard to say, isn't it? Because it's one of them we don't know. We haven't heard anything from them for so long. You'd like to hope they've still got the roots in the sort of single player co-op type thing, but you just don't know. It's been so long, so we'll have to wait and see.
So sitting on the fence.
Hey, he's
well,
allowed.
You can
He's allowed
you can
to
call it what you like. I'm just saying I'm cautiously optimistic, so it's up to you how you want to interpret that.
I'm excited. It's Borderlands 3. I've waited a long time. If I get made to look like a fool and it's trash, then so be it. But yeah, I'm going to go with that for the time being.
Yeah, well, there you go. Bit of optimism from Perks, negativity from Matty, and sitting on the fence from Sud. So we've covered all angles for Borderlands, a potential Borderlands 3 there. We'll move on to the next topic, though, and a game that has recently come out and been received very well, which is Devil May Cry 5. I know Sud and Perks, you guys have both played it. Not sure if you've... I know Sud's completed it, not sure yet if you have, Perks, but yeah, we wanted to discuss the game a bit and get your guys' thoughts on it.
Well, I think for me, this was a game that I was looking forward to. I've been looking forward to it for quite a while. It was one of the most anticipated games of this year, and I'm pleased to say that it's absolutely fantastic. It's a brilliant game. Everything that you want in a Devil May Cry game for me, and they've definitely not disappointed. I know, a lot of people weren't sure after the DMC thing. Some people liked it, some people didn't. I personally did like it. I think you did as well, Perks, but I think the vast majority of the hardcore fan base didn't like it. But I think leading on from that, I just think this game's brilliant. It really is. It just does everything right. It's fantastic characters. The combat, superb. Story, actually surprisingly good. Like, sometimes in these type of games, the story's not always great, but I think this has got one of the strongest stories out of any of the Devil May Cry games. And boss battles as well. There's some boss battles that hark back to old bosses in the series and stuff, which is really cool. And I just think overall it's just a fantastic package. And, I know some people complain like, oh, who wants to play these sort of 10 to 12 hour single player experiences? But for me, these type of games are the best type of experiences because, you can get what you want out of it. You can get 50 to 100 hours out of the game if you're seriously hardcore about the game and want to do it on all the difficulties and get all the collectibles and things like that and master all the techniques. Or you can play the game once through and it can be a nice experience that you just play once through and it's like, that was really good, and then you don't play it again. But I'm interested to hear your thoughts, Pers, now you've completed it. I want to kind of hear what you have to say, because I know you're a big Devil May Cry fan, so...
Yeah, it was something that I included on my recent top 5 list as part of our other series, and I'm pleased to say it's a return to form. I'm with you. I didn't think DMC was too bad, but it wasn't received in the best way. I was a massive fan of Devil May Cry 4, so this has been a long time coming for me. The story was one thing that actually jumped out to me as being better than I thought it was going to be. I think you've just said that as well, but this kind of game, it's like, yeah, you can kind of skip the cutscenes. It doesn't matter, but there's quite an intrigue to the way that it ebbs and flows. And whilst the twist, if you like, at the end is kind of obvious, and you can see it coming the whole way through if you're familiar with the series, it's still satisfying when it happens. And I think that's the sign of a good narrative. The characters are all unique, and the way you've got sort of the dynamic between Nero, between V and Dante, as well as the supporting cast, works really well, and it's nicely paced. It doesn't sort of throw you in and you get from A to B in no time at all. It builds up quite slowly but surely, and the conclusion is actually really satisfying as well, with some of the end boss battles and the cutscenes to go with them.
Perks, quick question. I've never played the Devil May Cry series, but which one was it where people were really unhappy with Dante? Was it
that was DMC?
That was DMC because
they changed his look or something.
Yeah, exactly. They changed his whole appearance, and
he had long hair for like most of the series, and then all of the series. And DMC was essentially a reboot that was sort of Dante's origin story, so to speak. I'm not even sure if it's still canon. I don't know if it is or not. But they basically just changed his entire look, made him look like a weird emo kid.
Which isn't unusual for the DMC series, it has to be said.
No.
Like, that's not uncommon for it.
I'm going to be honest. Game.
He's back to
fantastic. Because one point I just want to make is the character models in this game are fantastic. Like, maybe the best character models I've seen in the game. They're just brilliant. Like, that Resident Evil engine that they're using, that is something else, because the characters look incredible, I think, in the game, and just the facial expressions and everything about them, it feels so real when you're playing. It's amazing, really.
It's a really good follow-on from Resident Evil, because we've had things like every single zombie looking unique and having different facial expressions to this now, and obviously it doesn't quite apply to the demons because they're all sort of copy and paste. But in terms of the actual characters and cast, then yeah, they are really, really unique and well put together. I like the fact that I've completed the game and I feel like I've barely even played it. I started on Devil Hunter mode. I've done a couple of missions, maybe 2 or 3 on Son of Sparta, and I know there's still Dante Must Die and there's still Heaven and Hell all to come. So I'm really enthused by that, and also the fact that there's literally so many different ways to play. I mean, there's been different styles in the past, like Royal Guard and Swordmaster, things like that, but now it's like tenfold, because you can have so many different combinations of styles, plus guns, plus weapons, and I won't say the combinations are endless, because they're not, but you could quite conceivably play through the game upwards of sort of 20 times using different play styles the whole way through. And that, from a replayability perspective, is great. I like the addition of the Devil Breaker for Nero. I think that's really cool. It gives sort of new meaning to his character as well, which is great. And there's a lot of variation in them as well. I don't know off the top of my head how many different breakers there are, but there's a good sort of 5 or 6, I want to say, possibly even more.
Yeah, I think there might be a few more, actually. I think there might be up to 7 or 8.
I do think there probably is more. It shows you can sort of get stuck with using the same sort of 1 or 2. And again, that comes back to the fact that you can sort of start again and just think, hey, I'll try this way this time. So yeah, I'm pleased overall. I'm very impressed.
I think for me as well, I don't know if you got this sense as well, Perks, because towards the start of the game, you're obviously playing as mainly Nero, aren't you, at the start, and then V comes into it and things like that. But the part where you start playing as Dante, for me, is where it's like that. This is just brilliant now. Like the game just opens up nicely. The weapons you can use with Dante are just absolutely. It feels so great playing as Dante. I think, but I think personally, it's miles better playing as Dante than everyone else in the game. Like, don't get me wrong, the other 2 are fine to play with stuff, but playing as Dante is just. It's so epic.
Look, Devil May Cry is Dante, and it's like if you've got fond memories of the old parts of the series, then yeah, when that moment comes, then yeah, that is where it sort of kicks off.
I actually think as well, this is one of the rare games where humor actually works in this game. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not laugh out loud humor, but it's just nice, sort of subtle humor that the franchise is known for, of course. But I think they nailed it in this. I don't know if you agree with that, Perks.
Yeah,
on the whole.
Do you know what? It's akin to the humor that they put in Dead Rising as well.
Yeah,
it's very corny and cheesy, but in such a dark
There's
game,
something endearing about it, though.
Yeah, it's just something off, and it kind of throws you because, hey, 95% of the game is this way, and then you've got 5% of weird, corny humor, and it complements it quite well. I will say about my last sort of thoughts on the way the game's actually played. I think how you have to sort of navigate around battles and actually attack and defend whilst you're playing as V is a bit strange to get used to at the beginning. It's a little bit bizarre because you're in control of a character and actually not at the same time, because you attack and primarily defend using demons. So that's interesting. That definitely spices it up a little bit. He was probably my least favorite character because it took a while to get used to, but it's props to them for innovating for sure.
Yeah, I think to be fair to them, they did innovate, and yeah, I think some people, I can imagine some people maybe not liking it, and maybe it is a tiny bit hit and miss with some of the things with V and stuff, but I do think overall the game is an absolute joy to play. Now, I think Luke, you actually asked me off air, do I think this is the best action game ever made, and I find that really hard to answer. I think for me, as much as I love this game, and I do think it's one of the best games of the generation, right up there for me, but I do think Bayonetta just about edges it for me, just about, because Bayonetta was just absolutely perfection, really, in an action game, and I think it just edges out Devil May Cry, but it's close.
Yeah, I asked you that, and I also asked Perks off podcast as well, because I seen a tweet from a video game journalist who said that it was easily the best action game of all time, no hesitation required. So I thought, I'd ask you too, considering you've completed it. It's high praise.
I'm not sure where I rank it in terms of all time, but Sud just mentioned Bayonetta, which was a fantastic game in its own right. I think for me, with this kind of hack and slash style game, Devil May Cry 4 and 5 plus Bayonetta, those three are absolute top of the line. It's so hard to call.
Yeah, it just makes me sad actually thinking about Bayonetta, thinking that we'll never be able to play one ever again on an Xbox console because of its exclusivity to the Switch now, which is such a shame.
Yeah, you might have to buy a Switch.
It'd be tempting for the third Bayonetta because Bayonetta 2 from all accounts was great.
Either.
No, exactly, and that's supposed to be incredible. So
I don't know why you haven't got a Switch, Sid.
I know, I should get one really, and there's so many games on it now, especially with the new Pokemon games being announced as well. It is getting more and more tempting. Not gonna lie.
But yeah, if I could just put in my 2 cents on best action game, I haven't played Devil May Cry 5. I will buy it. It's obviously got good reviews. I've been quite busy at the moment, but yeah, I will get around to playing it. I think Ninja Gaiden 2 is my favourite, but each to their own. I always see, ridiculous statements from reviewers when games come out, saying this is the best game of all time, the best this, that, and the other. It's like, yeah, but have you actually gone back and looked at some of the other games that have come out? If he genuinely does think it's the best action game of all time, then that's his opinion and he's entitled to it. But a lot of the times, I think people just do it to get attention.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't mind him saying it's the greatest action game of all time, but I think the bit where he adds no question is like, well, not really. There actually is a question because you're ignoring greats, like you said, like Ninja Gaiden 2, like Bayonetta, which are renowned as great action games, and I think it's a little bit disrespectful towards them games, but I suppose, like you said, it's his opinion.
Yeah,
it's also fresh in their mind. Look, you've just picked it up, you've just played it. It's your new shiny toy. Looking back in retrospect, you might feel differently.
True.
Definitely, though, one of the best of the generation. I don't know if you'd agree, Perks. I think so, for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it got a 9 out of 10 on Steam and an 87% on Metacritic. What would you guys give out of 10?
I'd give it a 9.5 personally. I do regard it that highly. I think it's right up there for me. It's slightly behind The Witcher. Like, don't get me wrong, I think The Witcher 3 and Red Dead 2 are ahead of it, but it could possibly be third after that for me for this generation. I do love it that much.
So Witcher and Red Dead Redemption 2 are 10s for you?
Pretty much. I mean, I know some people... See, this is the thing. Some people don't like giving games 10s. I get that, but for me, they would be as close to 10 as possible. So maybe like a 9.9 or something. So
yeah, that's fair enough. How about you?
You're forgetting Anthem.
I'll go with. I was going to say I'll go with a 9, but definitely not for Anthem. I'll go with a 9 for Devil May Cry 5.
And that is high praise because you're quite a harsh marker or grader, whatever word you use for that. Yeah, so there you go. There's the Devil May Cry 5 game review, I guess, from the guys. Definitely one they've enjoyed and a lot of other people are enjoying too. However, we'll move on to our last topic of the day, and we're just going to finish on some movie news. Me, Matty, and Perks went to watch Captain Marvel last Friday. I can't really remember the day.
As promised in the podcast.
Yeah, we did promise. And we thought we'd give you our non-spoiler review because Sud hasn't seen it yet. He will get round to it at some point. Yeah, so what did you guys make of it? Because obviously there was a lot of controversy surrounding the film. We spoke about that on last week's podcast, blah, blah, blah. We just wanted to judge the film for what we've seen. What do you guys think?
I liked it. And that's coming from me. Like, I was skeptical about the film. I liked it. It's a standard Marvel film. If you've watched a Marvel film before, you know what you're going to get. There's those comedy elements. I think Samuel L. Jackson was really good as Nick Fury. Young-looking Nick Fury.
That CGI was good, wasn't it, as well?
Yeah, it was pretty good, to be fair. And I think the comedy moments hit quite well as well. In terms of, obviously, the lead and all the controversy surrounding it, I just think if they would have just shut up about it and not made a big deal about, this is, a feminist film and all that, then there would have been no controversy, to be honest. There was a few, cringy moments in the film, like when the Gwen Stefani song plays on the jukebox, just completely not needed. You know what I mean? It's just like, what's the point? But apart from that, I thought it was a good film. Yeah, serviceable. It's sort of standard what you come to expect from Marvel Studios now, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, my thoughts on it were that it's probably slightly less than what I'd expect from Marvel Studios, but not by much. I thought it was more enjoyable than I expected it to be, but that being said, my expectations weren't particularly high anyway.
Yeah.
It was strategically timed just before Avengers, and you can make of that what you will. I'm not a massive fan of the way that humor's portrayed in any superhero film, to be honest, but they did an okay job of it in this. It was again falling into the category of, yeah, that actually quite worked when I didn't think it would. The soundtrack, like you guys said, was bad.
Yeah, I did not like the soundtrack. I'm with you there.
Like, I know you only referenced one song before, but I think as a whole, it was a little bit meh, and a better job could have been done.
Oh yeah, I'm sure we can. Sorry to interrupt, but I'm sure we can all agree as well that the first act of the film was just absolutely painful to watch.
It was boring. I
was very worried after watching that first act. Just like, what on earth is this? Why have I come to watch this crap?
It does pick up though, to be fair.
Yeah,
yeah, it does. I think on the sort of first act, and this is a non-spoiler review, so I won't say too much, but the Brie Larson has a character that's portrayed as being too emotional, and Carol Danvers or Vers is not too emotional in the slightest.
Yeah.
Quite the opposite. So it hit the mark on a few more points than I expected it to, but overall, satisfying at best. I think for me, it was okay.
Yeah, I thought the film was alright. I thought it definitely, it's not a bad film or a terrible film, and I also don't think it's a fantastic film. I think it's just an alright film. Not one that I regret seeing or anything like that. So the only things I didn't like, mainly like you touched on, Perks, was definitely the soundtrack. Because, I don't know, some of the songs just did not fit, especially that No Doubt I'm Just a Girl. That didn't fit in the scene whatsoever. That's
like a parody of itself.
Yeah, it felt that way. It wasn't used very well. Other than that, yeah, Brie Larson's a little bit, I don't know, stoic? Is that what word you'd use to describe a character?
I think that's a good word.
Yeah, because she just, I don't know, there's not much I know she gets told throughout the whole film about emotion, but there's just not much emotion there portrayed anyway, it would seem. One other part I want to touch on, what did you guys think of the cat? Because obviously that's been quite a hit online.
I said to you after the film as we were leaving, that was the best part of the film.
Yeah.
You are a cat fan.
I am a cat fan, but regardless of that, that was done really well. They did a really good job of that, and I have no hesitation to say that that whole sort of from start to finish, the cat was fantastic. Well played, cat.
Well done, CGI
was
cat.
Very good.
Yeah,
it was
CGI
kind of like
cat.
No, that's the only thing I would say about it. I think they should have made the cat CGI all the time, because it was really jarring when the cat was like a normal cat, and then like in the next scene it had turned into a CGI cat, and it was just like, that's not the same cat. You know what I mean? It was just really jarring. Like, you know, when it sort of goes into low gravity and starts floating up, it's like it just goes from a normal cat to look, you know, like bad CGI, and it was like, well, come on, you can do.
Dude, that was a real cat.
Yeah.
That was a real cat. Like, don't hate. It was just showing off its skills. Maybe didn't pull it off that well, but
you know, at the end of the day, we all, you know, enjoyed the film enough, you know, but our opinions don't matter.
Well,
that's very true.
To be fair, the box office, the opening weekend, they made Captain Marvel made $153 million in the United States and Canada, with a further $302 million from international markets. So it did very well. It hit the mark.
One question I just want to ask, I haven't seen the film or anything, but do I actually need to watch this film, really, in terms of, will it ruin the proper Avengers film coming out? Because, to be honest, I don't really have much interest in watching it, so...
I mean, often I can tell you how it ties into the Avengers. So
yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to say.
It's not like... It does tie into the Avengers, but it's not like it's much. It's like 2 minutes or something.
Yeah, it's not
the only thing I'd say on that is that if you are interested in a very casual manner, but you don't know what Captain Marvel is as a sort of major part of the Avengers and you want to know before going into that, then I'd probably advise watching this so that you understand how she fits in and how her character is going to be used. But is it essential? No.
And why she's so OP?
Yeah. Danvers OP.
Well, I think my argument... Okay, this is another question, I suppose. Do you think... It's hard to find a way of wording this, but do you think Captain Marvel could potentially overshadow other characters that are going to be in Avengers Endgame? Because, you know...
Potentially. She could, potentially.
Well, the only reason I ask is because we've been investing in these characters now for over 10 years, and... You know, it's as if someone's just coming in, like some upstarts coming in now to sort of take over and win the day. And it's a bit like,
when we were talking about the Avengers and we were talking about looking forward to the next film in the podcast months ago, I basically got triggered saying I just don't want a situation where Captain Marvel comes in and it's just the Mary Sue that solves everything on her own. And it's like, one of them, like almost like a political statement / propaganda that just ruins the whole film. And to be honest, this film and the way that it ties into the new Avengers film has done absolutely nothing to rectify those fears. I think that still could be an issue with the next film. I hope it isn't, but just how powerful she is. She's essentially like Marvel Superman, pretty much. So it's like she is going to overshadow a lot of the characters, especially when you've got like Black Widow and Hawkeye and stuff that are still alive. It's like just normal people. There's someone with a bow and arrow, yeah.
Well, this has always been the thing, though, hasn't it? It's the same on the DC side. You've got like Batman and you've got Superman, and it's like, well, this makes no sense. How on earth would Superman ever lose to Batman? And it just wouldn't happen, would it? And it's like, but in the film, it kind of does, and it's like, this is kind of stupid, really. And
mate, Batman's the world's greatest detective. Poirot could probably beat Superman.
Yeah, of course, but it's daft, isn't it, really? It's just, you got some guy running around in a cape, basically. I know, he's clever and all this, and he's got tons of money, and he's got his gadgets, but Superman is literally, he's Superman. I mean, and it's silly, really, and I get the sense that this is going to be another occasion where this plays out because you've got Captain Marvel, this, unstoppable sort of force. And then you've got, like you said, people like, just normal everyday people. And it's just like, it's a bit weird, really. It'll
be interesting to see. There is the potential for that to happen, but I guess we won't really know until we watch Avengers Endgame next month. One last thing I want to quickly touch on. What did we think of the great Stan Lee's cameo in this?
Fitting tribute.
Yeah, I thought so. Too.
Nothing else to add. It was nicely done.
Yeah, it was a nice touch. There's a nice touch as well at the start of the film, so definitely look out for that. Anyway, we'll finish that there, or we'll leave that there and finish the episode, I should say. Thanks for joining me as ever, guys, and if you're listening to us on YouTube, remember to subscribe for more gaming content each week. Give our video a like and comment below with your opinions on the topics we've covered today. You can also follow Checkpoint Reach social media on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram at ChetReachPod. We're also on YouTube, Checkpoint Reach Podcast. Where can people find you guys on social media? I'll start with you, Sud.
For me, it's just Twitter, at David Tenspud.
Lovely stuff. How about you, Matty?
Matty Cheatham on Instagram and Twitter.
Lovely stuff. And Perks?
At JG Perks on Twitter, but feel free to leave me a comment.
Just in general. I'm going to leave you a comment.
In general, just post it through my letterbox.
Since you've asked so politely, I'll send you a nice comment.
There you go. Cool. Lovely way to end the show there, guys. And if you want to follow me on Instagram and Twitter, you can do at Leld, LEL3Ds, add a 9 on the end for Instagram. And yeah, so that's the show done. Thanks for joining me as ever, guys. Have a good week, and we'll chat again soon. Bye.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.